Yeah, I got in trouble all the time for not paying attention.
I got in trouble for he talks to his neighbor too much. I was like, this is a Christian school here. I think I'm supposed to do that.
Fellowship,
Not now. To think that they're building new parishes in Tennessee, other parts of the country, they're consolidating. Now, granted, they've been around for 100 years and they had one on every corner.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense anymore. But I will tell you that the Catholic Church here is so vibrant and it feels so positive to be in a Christian place.
Well, they started Holy Family with an ad in the paper. Literally. If you are Catholic and you live here, show up at Brentwood High School. And 1,000 people showed up.
And
Ed told me, he said, I was in the parking lot going, go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to be here. We feel such love. You know, and it's a crazy thing as a Catholic. My friends who are evangelical and other Christian, there's such a camaraderie and a rooting for one another. And I feel so connected here. I remember my wife and I, we thought about moving here 15 years ago because she did some work here. She goes, Tennessee, it's a great place. And I looked it up and it was the least Catholic state in the United States. And I didn't know what that meant exactly. It just meant the percentage of Catholics, I guess. You would not know that. Neither in terms of what's going on in the Catholic churches and the way non-Catholics treat Catholics here.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of immigration from other states.
Right.
Ohio, Illinois, Massachusetts.
Yep.
A lot of those. We even have a positive population exchange with Florida.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I've been meeting a few people at church who moved here from
Here's
Florida.
what we think happened. They lived in the north, moved to Florida, and said, it's too hot down here, and they moved halfway back.
Where it gets cold in the winter and a little warm.
At least we got the 4 seasons here. So a little more through. So we think that's what happened.
You know, all my California, I don't know if we're rolling. Are we rolling yet?
Oh, yeah, we've been rolling.
Oh, this is great. People will say, what about the weather? And I'm going to say this. I can't believe it because I used to say, oh, I don't think I can handle humidity or the bugs or all this stuff. Like, we haven't so enjoyed the weather. And I've been here in the last 11 months, it's been crazy. We've had some cold snaps.
Right.
And we love the variability that every day we wake up and go, it's freezing outside or it's thundering hot.
That's right. And wait till afternoon and then you
right. and it'll thunder and the rain comes down in buckets. And we're like, this is life.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that God created all of this.
Yes.
And I will tell you, I grew up in California, not in a great weather place, but in the last 35 years, I've lived in a place where it's very moderate. Californians don't leave and go, oh, praise God for this easy weather. It's just like you go, okay, so we don't talk about the weather. There's not joy. There's not this appreciation of it.
And you never get a snow day.
No.
See, my friends in the north come and say, explain snow day to me. And I have to remind them, a snow day here is a floating holiday.
That's right. We're not going to tell you when it's coming.
We're not going to tell you when it is. We just get fed up and we'll yell snow and we go to the house.
We've enjoyed every kind of weather.
Yeah.
But the truth is we're just so thankful to God for bringing us someplace in our lives that we never anticipated coming, where we feel so welcomed and where there's so many other wonderful people here and people that we need to reach out to in faith. But there's a sense that when you say to somebody, I want to pray for you, and they don't look at you crazy, you know. Now, we would do that in California too, and there are wonderful people there too. But generally speaking, you know, somebody once said, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. Yeah. And in California, it felt indifference. It felt just like, it just doesn't matter to me. So we just love being here.
For years, we had a young adult worship service called Kairos, and it was the dog that caught the truck kind of thing. You know, we started it. Some friends asked me to help them get started. I'd been at the church long enough that the babies had grown up.
Yeah.
And so they came and said, will you help us do this? Yeah, I don't have time to help you, but I'll help you get it started. Well, 11 years later, it's one of those things. And after one of those nights, just as we were closing the service, I don't know even why I said it other than we needed something to wrap up the service. And I said, hey, if you haven't heard it today, hear it from us. We love you. And it matters what happens to you. It matters to us what happens to you. That's all I said. 3 or 4 weeks later, I didn't say it for some reason. And there were 3 or 4 people that stayed around and said, and walked up to me and said, you didn't say it tonight. Didn't say what? You didn't say that you loved us.
I always say that the CEO is the CRO, the Chief Reminding Officer.
Yes.
And Jesus was the Chief Reminding Officer. And people think like you're going to be offended by repeating something. And like I say, no marriage ever broke up because somebody said, my wife told me she loved me all the time.
All the time.
And no manager has somebody quit their company like, well, he told me he cared about me, he wanted to know about me. And in our faith, it's like reminding people, and of course, it's not performative. It's like, I care about you and I want the best for you. And that gives you permission to love on them in so many different ways.
Right.
But, and who said, they don't care if what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah.
But we should repeat that.
Yeah. You won't remember this probably. I first heard you at Belmont University a long
in the
time
arena,
ago.
the basketball arena.
In the basketball arena. And you were there for some business breakfast or something.
Yeah.
And you came out and you started your presentation by apologizing for being ADD. You said, I'm going to start a story and not finish it. I'm going to finish it. So just hang with me and we'll get into it and stuff. And that's when I said, this guy is going to be a friend of mine. So I tell people, I say, I have plenty of attention. I just don't have attention for what you think I should have attention for.
Just at lunch, we were talking about this today. Our friend Carrie Newhoff, he and I we were talking about ADD.
Yeah.
And so I'm too old to have been diagnosed with it as a kid. It was like 20 years later, everybody got diagnosed. Right. I talked to a guy recently who said that they don't think it's a disorder. They think it's actually something that just doesn't fit with the way we raised kids.
Right. And the way we expect learning to happen in the school system.
And more boys have it than girls. And most teachers are women. And so boys couldn't sit still and not talk to their neighbor.
For 8 hours.
And it's just not in our nature. But what's amazing is those same things that we call a disorder are the things that make them amazing at other things when they get older.
Right.
And so it's really critical that we understand that maybe that's just not aligned with the way we structure education and discipline in youngsters. But let's not call it something it's not. We have this new tool called the Working Genius, which is to help people discover their God-given geniuses for getting stuff done. A guy called me the other day, faithful guy, and said, I think there's a correlation between 2 of the working geniuses and ADHD. And I think he might be right. One of the geniuses in Working Genius is called the genius of wonder.
Right.
And another one is called the genius of invention. People who wonder sit around and ponder. And they're deep thinkers.
That's what I would tell my staff. I need to stare at the wall time.
Yes. And staring at the wall, we look at kids that are staring at the wall and we go, hey, snap out of it.
Yeah.
And what I've realized, I have 3 sons with wonder out of my 4. And I'll be like, what's going on? And they've now been able to describe, I'm up there in my head. And I didn't know that. My wife has it too. And then the next one is invention, and that's coming up with new ideas out of nothing. Well, that requires a little bit of that also. Kids aren't rewarded in school for that. Hey, I don't even think in college. I don't even think your first job.
No. In fact, you are you're punished for it.
Yes. And so this guy said, you know something, Pat? I think people with wonder and invention, my wife is WI. She has both of them. She spent most of her childhood bouncing on a trampoline thinking. And her parents thought she was dumb and that she was just flaky. And so we judge.
Yeah, I got in trouble all the time for not paying attention.
I got in trouble for he talks to his neighbor too much. I was like, this is a Christian school here. I think I'm supposed to do that. Not now.
In case you haven't figured this out, we're now in the book, the 6
types of working genius.
6 types of working genius.
Yes, which literally I stumbled upon by the grace of God. I mean, 5 years ago, just trying to figure myself out. I didn't know why I got grumpy at work a lot. And I had gotten grumpy for 20 odd years, working in my own company with people I loved, doing stuff I loved. And I'd go to work, and inevitably something would happen. I'd get kind of grumpy, and people finally said, what's the deal with that?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know, but I want to figure it out. And I figured it out for myself. And I realized I was doing too much work in an area that didn't energize
Outside
me.
your giftedness.
And what I realized,
Outside your giftedness.
and I realized
Exactly
there's
right.
6 areas of giftedness that are required in anything, whether you're starting a company, running a church, rebuilding your house, going on vacation. There's 6 kinds of things that we need, and we all have 2 that we love, 2 that we're okay with, and 2 that crush us.
Yeah.
And if we're doing too much work outside of the gifts God gave us, we're going to burn out and get really unhappy.
That's right. And when I work with pastors, I tell them the thing that you're good at, the thing you're wired at, you can run all day in that.
Yes.
But if you spend too long doing things you're not good at, you will burn out very, very quickly.
And people think burnout is that you're working too much.
No.
It's that you're working too much in something you don't.
The wrong thing.
That God didn't intend you to do. My pastors are my favorite people to talk about the Working Genius, or one of them. So right after Working Genius came out, a pastor wrote to us and said, after taking the Working Genius, I've come to an amazing realization. He said, I thought I was a phony. I thought I was an imposter pastor. That sounds funny, imposter pastor. And he said, I couldn't write a sermon to save my life. My friends could walk in the woods for 20 minutes and come back with a 4-part series. And I would grind and I would grind, and it wasn't there, and I just didn't know how to do it. And why is it so hard for me? And I remember, and he realized, he took the Working Genius, and he didn't have I and D, which are 2 of the things that would have involved that, W and all that stuff up there. And I said, do you like counseling people? He goes, yeah, I love counseling people. Are you really good at people in grief and that need? He goes, yeah. I said, yeah, do you know your friend that loves to write the sermon? He probably doesn't love that.
That's right.
I've talked to Catholic priests who say, I love giving the homily. I don't really like doing confession because it's one-on-one.
Yeah.
And it's
it's messy. Gosh, it is messy.
And it's a different genius.
Yeah, right.
And God didn't make any pastor to be Jesus who does them all. And yet you become a pastor and everybody looks at you and says, you must be good at speaking, organizing, managing, counseling, listening, and singing.
And no one has that. No one.
And the devil wants us to feel guilty and focus on what we don't do well. And which is why when people do the Working Genius, I'm like, could you celebrate the things you suck at? Because what God doesn't want us to feel guilty for the things. And that's awesome.
When our church started to grow, one of my best friends that I'd ragged on a long time, what are you going to do when you grow up? He's phenomenally successful in the business world. So he walks in and tells me one time, he says, I bought back some time, and what do you want me to do? I said, what do you mean you bought back time? I told my people I wasn't going to work any more than this, and this is what I want to do. So I told him, I said, now, Leon, I can see Z. I can see where we're going. I can't see M, N. I said, not only that, I don't want to see them.
Right.
I said, once I see where we're going, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm mad at you because you can't see it. And so Leon said, this is what I do. So this guy stands up in front of the church, and we're going to hire an administrator, a business administrator, executive pastor, to run all the details of the church.
Oh, Catholic churches suffer so much by not having executive pastors.
Get what now this is my friend. Okay, so I want to tell you how much this guy loves me. And he's in front of the church, and he says to them, we love Mike. Nobody preaches or teaches better than he does. We love when he opens the Bible. But when it comes to administration, he sucks. And I look at him, I said, Leon, I'm sitting right here. He said, oh, they know it. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
So what I tell pastors is, if you will be self-aware enough to say, listen, here's how I can best serve you. I can't serve you here. That 9 times out of 10, the church will rally around you and come and say, hey, we got you, preacher. I'm really good at this.
Yes.
And you'll be sitting in a meeting and people will put out the budget and it'll have all the spreadsheet and it'll be such a beautiful thing and they'll have tears in their eyes. This is such a beautiful spreadsheet. And I'm going, you guys are sick. But because we had those guys who were gifted, called, who thrived in that. Our church passed audits 20 straight years that I was there.
Yeah.
And it made it easy to talk about giving because the church knew the church was faithful with the money and the pastor didn't touch it.
And it's funny. And then there's churches that are really good at all that stuff and aren't inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And in other words, God, the body of Christ needs everyone.
Yeah.
And all the gifts matter.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't understand that, and that's the beauty of you saying, like, it's so great that he got up and said, he sucks at this.
Yeah.
Because like you said, people know.
The church knows.
And when you're in a leadership position, especially in a church, celebrating the gifts you don't have is honoring the people that do have those gifts.
The first Reformation gave the Bible back to the people. The second Reformation that we're in now is giving ministry back to the people.
Yeah, and that's something that I think that as a Catholic, we talk about clericalism.
Yes.
And that is that there's a role for the pastor.
Indeed.
And it's so important that they're good at that, but them trying to do the things they're not meant to do. That's why I said the Catholic Church needs this thing called the executive pastor. So many priests are like so on fire for Jesus, and they go to be a priest, and then they love their first 2 or 3 years, and they make him a pastor, and they're like,
and they get burned out doing things they're not good at.
Exactly. And the ones that go, oh, finally I get to be a pastor, maybe didn't really want to be a priest.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to know.
Here's the other thing, and that I tell pastors. I said, listen. I said, if you're trying to do everything, you're robbing your people of the blessing that God intends for them.
Absolutely.
God has created them a certain way to add certain things to the kingdom. And it's in doing those things, one, that they'll continue to learn to follow, because there are some things you learn only in the doing.
Yes.
You can't read and study about them. You have to do them.
Yes.
Okay, and when they do it and it helps the body, they're going to be blessed in ways that you will never be blessed.
Yes. Yes. And you need to allow them to love you through their gifts.
Yes.
A lot of pastors don't feel like they should be receiving love from their congregation. And it's like, no, they want to serve you and one another. And they're like, no, you don't have to do that for me. And it's like, give them the gift of gifting you.
Jesus himself received the gift of his followers.
When they wiped his feet and they were like, look what she's doing for me.
Yeah. The thing is, and I tell Pastor, I said, you have trained them, taught them. If you see somebody hurting, love them. If you see somebody in need, take care of it. If there's something you can do, yeah. And now they have prayed, how can I help somebody? You've been laid on there, and now you tell them, one, you didn't hear correctly from Jesus. You didn't bring it to the right person, and you're discounting everything that God has done in their heart and their life rather than affirming it.
Yeah. I just had a thought that I want to recall here. If it's God's will. Because you were talking about, giving them the gift of serving in the way they will. You know what I think about? Throughout the history of the church, the saints, some of them did the most menial things. Saint Therese of Lisieux, who's called the Little Flower, she had this small life of prayer, and she did the most simple things. And she talks about, I can't do great things, but I can do small things with great love.
That's right.
And yet we tend to think that every saint was a theologian or an amazing pastor or a bishop. Most of them weren't. Most of them were actually punished even in their own communities at some point. And so we don't recognize that the way we define greatness in the world is just so contrary to the way the church really and Jesus sees greatness. Yeah, and it's those small things.
And the power that comes from that. We call it the Mother Teresa rule.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to where nobody else wants to go. Yeah. Do what nobody else wants to do. And the world will never mess with you. And in fact, the world will give you a platform. I don't know if you remember, but she was asked to speak at the prayer breakfast or something. And she pointed her finger at Bill Clinton, who was president at the time.
No country that allows the killing of the unborn.
Told him to stop abortion.
Praise God.
And her finger was that far from his nose. And everybody said, well, you don't talk to the president like that. Everybody else looked at it as Mother Teresa. She can say what she wants to.
And she wasn't doing it to grandstand.
No.
He needed to hear it.
Yeah.
That was an act of love.
But because of her ministry in Mumbai with the lepers, the world gave her a platform that gave her permission to speak to anybody, anytime, about anything.
Yes. You know, one of her great quotes was, God doesn't call you to be successful, but to be faithful.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an interesting thing in the world today. I have this belief that willfulness is the sin that abounds in the world because it's how we're raised. You know, I think in pride, it's like God's will or my will. Mm-hmm. And we're raised to be like, be self-made. You know, people are like, nobody's self-made. And make it happen on your own. And whether great athletes, great CEOs, great
you can be anything you want to be. No,
exactly. And we hear those things, and it might be American or Western, I don't know what it is, but it's actually the one sin that people don't even recognize as sin. Because when I want to do my will, and if it doesn't correspond to God's will, that is not good. Mm-mm. And yet this idea of success means...
you kink the pipe.
Right. Now, I do strategy and leadership with companies. Yes, have a plan. But just like they used to say at dances when you were dancing, leave room for the Holy Spirit. And the thing is, have a plan. Say, God, this is the best plan I have that I can think of now. And tomorrow morning, if you show me something that's better than this, I will go with what you want me to do. Right, yeah. And so this whole idea of willfulness, which feels very like a good thing.
Very American.
Oh, it's so dangerous. Mm-hmm. It's so dangerous. And when people graduate from school, go out and change the world and do what you want to do. It's like, no. Go out there and constantly go before God and say, what do you have for me?
Right.
And he will have for you what he built you for. Mm-hmm. But it's this surrender thing. I mean, this is the challenge of life, isn't it?
Yeah, every day.
Every single day. And it's so countercultural and probably counter human in many ways.
Yeah. One of the reasons I want to talk to you today, Pat, is the pastors we're talking to and who'll be watching this video are leading staff, hiring staff, calling staff, and Pat, we're really bad at it.
Oh well.
We're
not me. I'm perfect.
No, I know. But you have written a lot of books like the 5 Mistakes,
and I still struggle. It's really important to hear that. It's just like a pastor going, "Don't think I'm perfect."
That's right. Yeah,
I need to confess my sins too.
Yeah,
and most of these books come from me making mistakes myself.
That's right. Yeah.
So don't think
I found it was interesting. You know, when I read the 6 Types of Genius, that it came out of your own recent journey.
Yes. Grumpiness, frustration, struggle. Mm-hmm. So often that's where we learn the most, is when we're at our weak point. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so you're saying these pastors, you said we're not good at it.
Yeah.
You know, I think the truth is, it gets back to what we were talking about before, and that is surrender and humility. Nobody's great at this. Nobody is great at it because we're human. Mm-hmm. And management, I've come to the conclusion that it's ministry. Managing human beings is one of the great ministries in life.
Yes.
And, you know, think if you're doing youth ministry someplace, like a guy that works for me, Cody, he's so many of the people I hire have a degree in ministry of some kind. It's crazy. And people are like, how come you got hired? He goes, I don't have a degree in youth ministry.
Yeah.
But he said he really wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And then he said, wow, when you manage somebody, you're with them every day for like 8 hours, helping them. And that's a ministry too.
Especially with the Gen Z.
They need
the Gen Z
parenthood
is looking for someone not who will manage me, but who will somebody who will coach me.
Yes.
In the context of my life goals and how this job serves my life goals.
And I think that's the great thing about Gen Z is they've come into this knowing that I have to integrate my life and my work.
Right.
You know, my dad was like, no, your work, you go to work, you don't bring your life into it, you do this.
That's right. And then you come home and you don't ever talk about your work.
Right. And then I think I was part of that transition in my writing and stuff. Like all of my books are about people and their life and they're all these things. And now they're coming in going, listen, my life comes first. And now how does this integrate with this? Right. And I think that's largely good. I mean, yeah, there's those people that come in and all they want to talk about is their cat or you know, I need another day. And maybe those people need to go get a little tougher. But generally speaking, people are looking for, how does this work make me a better human, a better child of God? Yeah. And we as managers,
especially
and leaders,
work in a church.
Yes.
Especially work in a church.
Well, and gosh, you know, John Ortberg once told me, He said, people shouldn't work in a church that need the job.
No.
But what they come to need is they want to heal. They want to live out their ministry to others and be ministered to in the process. And so being a manager at a church is such a high calling and such a heavy one, because man, when you make a mistake managing people at a software company, you go, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
When you do it at a church, it really jeopardizes their sense of what
Their
faith
self-understanding,
is.
their understanding of their calling, all of that, which makes it imperative that we do it well.
And if you're the pastor of a church, I was just talking to a pastor, Catholic, recently, and I work with all kinds, which is great. And he needs to fire somebody. And it's so apparent. And it's apparent to his staff. It's apparent to the people who work for this person. It's apparent to the people in the congregation. And he just can't do it. And I said, I know it's hard because you feel like, and he said, well, Christmas is coming up and, and it's like, this person is hurting so many people and they're hurting too because they know they don't fit.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. And I have a lot of heart for pastors that go, but I am their spiritual leader and an organizational leader. And gosh, if you're wrestling with that, err on the side of mercy and grace. But so often we are way beyond mercy and grace.
Well, a couple of things. One, no one has permission to hurt the sheep.
Right.
So if they're hurting the sheep, then that's one thing. The other thing is, if they're not happy, then let's help them get somewhere where they are happy. The best friend I can be to you is let's just be honest, it's not working, so let's be proactive. And I'll walk with you through it. We got a whole church of people who are willing to help you in this transition.
See, you're exactly right. And people think it's a buy-sell decision.
No.
And it's not. It's like, something? And in this case, like they have core values.
Right.
And she doesn't meet them. And it's like, let us help you figure out a place. You're a very corporate person. You came from a corporate world and you want to do things that way. We're very pastoral and joyful. And we know that's hard. I think you belong in a place where your corporate gifts will be valued, and it's a frustration for people here. Let us help you, and let us love you through that.
That's right.
And I think 90% of the time you can make that happen. 10%, they might be so hurt that they're like, I reject this and I'm leaving.
Right.
But eventually they come back and go, yeah, that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Sure.
But you're right. We think it's an either or where we have to keep them or let them go. And then we keep them and they continue to be miserable.
Right.
And then we have to own the fact that we kept them in their misery.
Yeah. Yeah. And you made everybody else miserable too.
Yeah. Here's a question I have for you and for everybody out there. So you're the pastor, you're the shepherd. You have people that are doing ministry in your church, employees. They're part of the shepherding team. They and you are there to shepherd the congregation. How do you see them both as a member of the congregation and a co-shepherd? In other words, this gets back to the John Ortberg thing, and that is, sometimes I think that we prioritize shepherding the co-shepherds, even when they're maybe repelling the congregation, the sheep.
Yeah.
Because that co-shepherd is both part of the sheep and a shepherd. And it's so hard because like, I need to give them ministry, but they're supposed to be co-ministering. And if they're not good at co-ministering, it's a real difficult thing.
Well, first of all, let's make sure that they're in a place that's in alignment with their gifts.
Right. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. That's the first thing. Let's sit down and understand how God wired you.
Yes.
And then let's put you in a place where we can do that. Right. I told you about my friend Leon. Well, Leon, because he was working for free, because he was a successful businessman, got away with murder in our church. He could make any decision. He could lop off anything. He could shut down anything, and the church never said a word.
In a good way or a bad way?
In a good way. Because if he did things like, let's put this event up. How many man hours does it take?
Okay, so he didn't get away with murder. He could go in without fear
or anything like that. Stuff that would get me fired.
Yes.
And so he would come in and go, Okay, what are your goals? And they would list out 5 or 6 goals. He says, what if you've only got money for 3? What will you do?
Right.
And I said, well, here's the 3 we'll do. He said, okay, let's do those 3. Forget the others.
And they'd go, but what about the people that benefit from the other 2?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was Leon. I wouldn't have,
and that was his job.
And that was his job, and it worked famously.
Oh.
But they got mad. They would come to me and go, hey, this kind of stuff. And I said, you need to understand, Leon's doing exactly what the church needs him to do.
Right.
And if we were smart, we're going to listen to him. And because he does some things we don't do. So one, be sure they're in the right place. And then when someone is doing ministry in the church, they still need your oversight, coaching, correction, encouragement. You did that really well.
Right.
Okay. Now, when somebody comes up and says this to you, let's work on tact a little bit on how
yes
on how we say that.
I love this conversation, and I'm doing what I told you before, where I jump around. But you've inspired me on something. One of the most important things I think I've learned in my entire career of doing this is something that's very simple and it has to do with managing people. If a person's performance is not great, the number one thing we should do, we have to understand them and understand their gifts and all that. We should go tell them. And then the next time that they don't do the right thing, we should tell them again. And the next time they do it, then we should tell them again. Here's what I'm trying to say is this. That doesn't happen. Churches are the worst at this too.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And when we don't tell them, we are not giving them a chance to make the critical decision that's theirs to make. Like, do I want to get better and work on this? Or do I want to find some place that suits me better?
Right.
And it's dignity to let them make that call. And the only way to give them that opportunity is if we're constantly saying, hey, Bob, you remember that thing we talked about? You did it again. So I really need you to change that. And then the next time he does it, he knows he eventually, if you keep telling him, he's going to go, gosh, there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. I better get better at this.
Right.
Or I better find a different place where I can survive.
A buddy of mine told me, he said, everybody is worthy of great supervision.
Right.
And so many times, especially volunteers in the church.
Oh, I want to talk about this.
Don't know what the job is. Don't know what success looks like. Don't know if they're doing it right or wrong. And nobody talks to them about it. Because as a pastor, I need to fill a slot.
Yes.
So if you're walking down the hall and I need a preschool, I'm going to grab you and throw you in preschool and say I have filled that slot.
But to be fair, they have to be breathing.
Fog up a mirror in front of the nose. And I used to tell the church, I said, now what happens when we do that? One, I've got an adult who walks in there saying, I promised Mike I'd do this for a year. I've only got 51 more Sundays to go. Okay, I've only got 50 more Sundays to go. And they start counting it down. Yeah. Now, when they reach the end of that, they're going to make a couple of promises. One, I'm never walking down this hall again. Two,
no make eye contact with Mike.
That's right. I'm never going to do anything again. They just don't drop out of what they're not good at.
Yes.
They drop out.
Oh.
But the critical thing is, there is a little boy and a little girl in that class who want to know why this adult doesn't love them.
Oh, man. It's so true. Volunteerism is one of the biggest problems in churches. And it's and in all organizations that do volunteer, but it's so important in churches for what you just said. And the problem is we have this crazy idea about volunteers. We look at paid staff and we go, well, they're paid, so we don't need to inspire them. They have a job. These people that are volunteers are not paid. So we can't expect a lot from them. And as long as they'll fill the seat, that's good enough. And we have to turn that upside down. We should look at our paid staff as though they're not paid and say we have to find the right fit and inspire them around the big picture of what they're doing.
Right.
And the volunteers, we have to treat them like paid staff and say, let's have high expectations.
Same way.
You know where I learned this? At
and
the
clear expectations. Here's what it looks like.
And encourage them not to do it if they're not ready, if they're not willing to.
And give them permission. And I've got great stories. I had a friend of mine stopped me one time. He said, you need to know when we joined your church. I said, okay. He says, do you know Bobby? And this is one of the I said, yeah, I know, Bobby. He said, he loves my little boy, and my little boy is on the spectrum. And everywhere we went, he could never fit in. He walked in, Bobby latched onto him, and they're best buddies. And when my little boy got in the car and said, can we go back to Bobby's church?
Wow.
You know, I said, please don't tell me. I said, when I tell Bobby that, it's going to make him so hard to live with. So,
and Bobby, just so you know, it's Jesus' church, not yours.
Right. But Bobby had a knack for uncomfortable kids. He could find them in any room and be their best friend. It was an amazing thing to watch. And being able to release Bobby and call Bobby going, hey, I got a kid coming Sunday you need to pay attention to because.
Get this. I wish we had a room full of people working at churches, but I'm envisioning them watching this right now. So at my church, you know, over the years, every fall, the new kids are coming in for faith formation. We call it, you know, school, church school. And people are like, if you would like to we need volunteers for the youth program. If you would like to volunteer, and you know what's the amazing thing about that? If they said this, we have this program coming up. If you're really good at working with kids and you have a heart for helping them know Jesus and you're really high standards and want to come do things with the same level of excellence as you would in any other job, then we want you to work here. And if not, please don't volunteer.
Please stay away.
You know what happens in that case? The good volunteers go. Because I never volunteered to that because I knew what would happen. You go there and it's so mediocre.
That's right.
And if you do try to do excellent stuff, you're swimming upstream and you feel like you're going to be expelled like a virus.
Crab in the pot kind of thing, yeah.
The good ones will step up and the others will leave. And guess what? The parents are going to go, I want my kids in that program.
Well, you know, you talk to people who are gifted and they will tell you, you have to get them in preschool, Mike. By the time they're 5, it's too late. Okay. Now you talk to somebody else gifted. No, you got to get them in middle school or high school. By the time they get out of high school, it's too late. It all depends on they will have the gift of teaching, but will have the passion for a particular age group.
I want them all to think they're right.
And all of them are right.
I love that.
And you have to put them in a place where that matches.
And, you know, imagine the opposite of that is like, it's just preschool. It doesn't really matter. They're just going to color. They're going to color pictures of Jesus. And it's like, they'll get them in junior high. That's right. The junior high is like, oh, they'll get it when they have kids. It's so true. And that's why excellence goes with our faith. And mediocrity is not of God.
No.
And what the worst thing that can happen in our churches is we have lower. When I work with church staffs, I always say, hey, what do you think is more important, this job you have or that software company down the street, Microsoft or whatever else? Right. And they never say it right away. They're always like, well, I guess ours. I'm like, of course yours. That's how well they can do a spreadsheet. This is about their eternal salvation.
Right.
So I have a question for you. Why would you ever have lower standards for employment than them? Why do you tolerate that lady sitting at the front desk that's kind of grumpy? Yeah, she's worked here for years. But when people come here, they don't feel welcome. They don't see Jesus in that. Why would you ever settle? This is actually more important. And that doesn't mean get rid of that woman. That means go inspire her, find out what she's good at, raise her up, find the right role for her. And if there's not one for her, then help her
get to the place where she's supposed to be.
Right. And yet so often we go, oh, well, what can you do? It's like, I know what you can do.
You can do a lot.
You can manage them.
That's right.
Yeah. And I love talking to people about this because nobody ever, our church staff is like, you're right.
Yeah. Well, you know, the reason we don't do more of it is, you know, one of Jesus's consistent prayers was, how long do I have to put up with these people? You know,
or the forgiveness one.
That's right.
Seven, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Not 8.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, the idea that I've got to go sit down with the student minister again and talk about the same thing again. It's easier just to call somebody and complain about my youth minister or my student or my worship leader or whoever it is that is on my short list that week, rather than be the friend in Christ and call them to their best self.
So in the five temptations of in the five dysfunctions of a team, one of them is accountability. That's the fifth dysfunction. And it's the most common one. And in churches, it's by far the most common. Conflict and accountability, because it's like, that's not Christian. It is. And what I was terrible at this. I did not like to hold people accountable. Like, we'd agreed on something, their standards weren't high enough. I hated telling them. And I used to think it was because I was kind. And it's the day I realized that it was ultimately an act of selfishness.
Right. Yeah.
It was like, I'm not doing this for their benefit. I would say, well, I don't want them to feel bad. It's like, no. I don't want them to blame me for feeling bad. And when I realized the next time I saw somebody's performance suffer and they needed to be told and I didn't do it, I was committing, really, I mean, let's just call it, that was a sin of selfishness.
That's right.
Because they're going to suffer that consequence at some other point, and it's going to be worse than if I talk to them. So I'm actually saying I care about myself more than them.
Well, I said Baptist churches, I said, it's funny to me, you will see a young person struggle and you won't say anything until they're picked up or dead, and then you'll want to put them on the prayer list.
Oh, wow. That's really, it's funny?
But you won't step into the 17-year-old's life when you see the mistakes they're making.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I spoke at this conference, and it was a group of, it was kind of about politics, but it was also about faith. But and it was about, and they asked me to talk to them, and I spoke about courage. And I said, courage, there's a lot of different kinds of courage. The first one is you got to look in the mirror and actually have the courage to face what's true before God. The other one is public courage, where people stand up and they give a speech on a stage, they run for office, or maybe they're a pastor and they preach something, and you have public courage. But the kind of courage that's lacking in society today, and when people are like, well, how do we get people to vote better or to live their lives better? And I said, interpersonal courage is what's lacking the most, is when you're in a conversation with somebody at a restaurant or at work or on the street corner, or somebody that you're actually in a relationship with, and they say something that you don't think is good. And the courage to say, hey, I have to tell you, I don't think that's true.
Right.
I think that you should think about that. And here's why. That's the thing in our society. People will troll each other on the internet or yell at each other on a street,
right,
or maybe even give a speech. But will they sit across the lunch table from somebody and say, hey, I'm afraid I can't agree with that. I don't think that's something Jesus would want you to do. And I'm not judging you, but I'm telling you that's really a problem.
And living in Nashville with the Christian music scene, and with all of the public failings of several very famous ministers and all, sitting with a group of pastors, and we were talking about that. And I said, listen, I said, you go to these guys and you watch them. I said, they will have violated several fundamentals. Like one very famous evangelist was not in a local church for 25 years. We know that. Okay, so that's just one example.
That's
and there's
cut off
others.
From the body of Christ.
Yes, and so my question to them is, who didn't love this guy enough to pull him aside and say, you're going to crash and burn because nobody can run the way you're running? Why didn't anybody love them enough to say?
And I know it's a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
And I think the thing, what it comes down to is this. It's that they didn't want that person to reject them or to feel judged. Even if your intentions were pure, I'm not judging you. And you can say that to somebody, I'm not judging you. I'm concerned for you.
Right.
But it's like, oh, if they don't respond well, and it's essentially, it's selfish. Right. I don't want to be excluded. There's a book called, it's not Live Not by Lies. No, I think it is.
That's right.
Yeah. And he talks about this. I think it's fascinating. He said the Soviet Union didn't take over Russia, the Soviet Union, all those countries by force. They did it by excluding them from privilege. They said, if you don't join the party and agree with what we believe, you're not going to be able to go to the cinema. You're not going to be able to get the groceries you want. You're not going to be this. We think it was like with a bullet to their head. And that's what happens. We don't want to be excluded. We don't want somebody to go, I don't like that guy anymore because he called me on something. And that desire to be liked, as silly as that sounds, goes back to middle school, prevents people from doing the things that we know we should. And I want that famous evangelist to like me and to be part of.
That's right. I want to be in his entourage and all that. I don't want to be the one that's excluded because I wouldn't do that.
So many of the greatest people in the world's history are the ones that went to somebody and said, I have to tell you this.
Yeah.
And sometimes they were punished, but you offer that to Jesus and you go, okay, Jesus, I did what you wanted me to do, and I take this. Wanting to be liked and included, that is probably, and I love it here in Nashville. It's great. And I like not being too included in everything. Right. You know what I mean? But I can just imagine the pressure, the social pressure that some people have to not be neglected or rejected.
Right. Yeah.
Boy, and a pastor. Oh my gosh. The other thing is when a person leaves your church because you speak truth. So many churches are not speaking truth because they just don't want people to leave.
You know, several years ago, the church, the state put on the ballot the state lottery, and we didn't have a state lottery several years ago. And I preached a sermon that you have the calling from Christ to vote against this thing. And I had people leave the church. And so people tell me, that was real brave, Mike. That was real brave. I said, a Baptist preacher against gambling? That's the standard of bravery now?
I haven't had the platform to do this yet. I don't know if but do you know what's going on right now in our society? And I'm not a Baptist, but I mean, we both, gambling of youth on sports.
Oh, gosh.
And we have our sports idols encouraging kids to do this.
Telling us, and you can bet on any aspect of that game.
Right. The first pitch is a ball or something. I mean, it's absolutely about, and they go like, hey, do it for free. We'll give you $50.
Yeah, we'll give you $50.
It's an addiction like drugs.
Make a $5 bet. Oh, yeah.
And nobody's talking about this.
Oh, yeah. And it is ruining lives.
And every pastor at the very least, because this isn't like going out there on a limb. It's like, hey, do we realize we're actually okay with this? And you know something? If every pastor and every person that goes to church said, wait a sec, I think this is bad, society would change.
Yeah. Well, I told him, I said, you have to understand the state is now in the business of encouraging immoral behavior.
And it's absolutely true.
Yeah. And of course, they used to ask me, they said, now listen, we know you took the big stand on it, but do you ever buy a lottery ticket? I said, no.
No, I don't either.
And I said, no, really, if you're like in Chattanooga and you get some gas, you got $1 left over, you don't, I said, no. And they said, why not? And I said, because I would win the thing. Okay? But I wouldn't win enough to go to Tahiti and never have to see you guys. I'd win just enough to be on the front page of the paper. Baptist preacher wins $20,000. That's
that sarcasm.
Yeah. So that's what I would do. That's the way God would punish me. Yeah, I'm going to let you win it. Here we go.
Yeah, he would. And then you'd go like this. Okay, I won, God. I'm giving it all to charity.
I'm giving it
Maybe half of it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
3/4.
Maybe half. That's right. Yeah, you don't need all this money.
Oh my gosh! Exactly the worst thing that could happen. But it's so true, and it's like, and we have to. And this is the other thing too. I was talking to a big evangelical preacher with multiple churches, and he was talking about growth, and like we want to grow, and that growing our ability to teach people about Jesus is fantastic, but growing at the expense of truth is actually not good.
No, that's
and numbers are not the indication, which is why, and I love this because as a business person, we love to measure things. And the number of clicks you get, the number of likes you have, even the number of people that are coming to church, it's really a number that only God knows and how many people are really bringing Jesus into their life. And if you have 100 people in your church and they are really knowing Jesus and living it, and you have 1,000 people in your church, but they just like the coffee and the music and that you're telling them things that don't challenge them, one of those churches is successful and the other's not, and we know which one it is.
I preached on tithing one time, and I said, I know y'all think I'm being brave. Here's the reality. 25% of our people give about 85% of our budget, which means 75% of you could get up and leave right now, and we wouldn't miss you. So I'm pretty safe.
It gets your humor.
In what I'm saying. I'm not, it's not as dangerous as you think it is.
Right.
That's right.
I love that.
What is it you want to be sure our pastors hear?
Well, here's one. As a Catholic, there's something going on in the world. The Holy Spirit is moving, and I feel it, and I see it. The new world, this post-Christian world, the kind of pastors that are watching this, and the Catholic priest, there's a new unity coming. I don't know how the Holy Spirit does that, but let's just love each other and embrace each other and realize and learn from each other. And there's truth that we can learn from. So that I want to encourage them that. The other thing I want them to do is realize that, for years, Dave Ramsey has had this wonderful program called Financial Peace University, and it drew people to learn about their finances in a godly way. So then they could know God wants me to live a better life. Working Genius can do that too. In other words, when you say, I want my congregation to know who you are for volunteering and just to know how God wired you.
Out of the giftedness.
Let them be the conduit for that. And we found that churches are the best people for doing this. People trust their church. So if you can do that, I'm sure there's discount codes out there for churches that we have or something like that. But
when people show up to worship, coming out to celebrate what they saw God do Thursday,
right?
Rather than it being a a spectator sport. All the difference in the world. You can't tell we have ADD, can you? This is Pat Lencioni. I'm Mike Glenn. This is Empowered Leaders and Thriving Churches, a podcast from the Engaged Church Network. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Engaged Church Network podcast. We exist to train healthy and skilled leaders for congregations throughout Middle Tennessee. If today's episode helped you, share it with a fellow leader. And don't forget to visit engagedchurchnetwork.com for more ways to grow.